Well, a day has come that I thought may never come, and that is the day that I can finally say that my roof raise is complete. Fully done, sealed off from the elements, and I'm pretty happy about it. With that being said, the task is now to make this interior space an actual livable space. And like with most things, you want to start from the ground up. And in this case, we'll be starting from, well, the floor up, and that will be with installing our subfloor system. Now with the flooring on a bus, you can really do it a lot of ways. You may choose to not insulate your floors. You may choose to leave your stock school bus floors inside the bus. You may choose to totally insulate your floor with new subfloor. You know, there are a ton of different ways to do it. The way I'm doing it is a method that I found online from a fellow named Chuck Cassidy. He's kind of a legend in the whole Skoolie conversion space. And if you haven't seen his stuff, I would recommend go check it out. It's just Chuck Cassidy on YouTube. This whole flooring system that I'm doing is basically one for one what he did with his bus. It's just a little bit different in the fact that I have some slightly different cuts I need to make, and I'm just doing it on a longer bus, so I'm using more material. Now, the way that he does his subfloor is really interesting, actually. It involves no framing. So we're not framing the floor, we're not getting, dimensional lumber out, we're not cutting out squares and plopping them in there. I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through the system that we're using. Here's what I'll be using to adhere everything to the floor. Since we're not doing any framing, there's not gonna be anything to drill or nail into down, except for the threshold. I'm gonna be doing a little threshold here over the front of that door. So that's gonna be where the very back sheet of subfloor ties into, and then I'm going to be doing a kind of a threshold. You can't see it, but right down here where I'm going to be ending my system that I'm doing here, I'm going to do another threshold here. So there's going to be something that the subfloor can tie into in the very front and the very back, but between the front and the back, there's not going to be anything that I can attach the subfloor to down, unless I wanted to drill all the way through my metal floor pan, which I may end up doing just in a few spots, but I don't honestly know if it's necessary. But to adhere everything to the floor, I'm using this Loctite, premium Loctite PL. You can probably use any one of your favorite construction adhesives. Honestly, I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but yeah, this is what I'm gonna be using to adhere each layer to. And then this is gonna be what I'm using for insulation. So this is Owens Corning. It's not 8 feet in here, so you can't really see, but this is Owens Corning NGX 250 foam board insulation. This stuff is killer. It's really expensive, actually. I think this is, with bulk pricing, it's $53 a sheet, and I'm gonna be doing 2 layers of 2 inches, so I'm using about 16 sheets total. So it's pricey for sure, but I think it's worth it. So yeah, and like I said, I'm doing 2-inch layers. So I'm gonna have 4 inches of insulation total, plus a 3/4 inch subfloor on top. So basically it'll go layer of glue, layer of insulation, layer of glue on top of the insulation, another layer of insulation on that insulation, another layer of glue on the insulation, and then my subfloor. One other note about the insulation, if you don't know, the 250 on here, you can get it in different, I don't know what the word is, but basically the 250 refers to its compression rating. So something sitting on top of it, compressing it down, 25 PSI. So 250 equals 25 PSI across the sheet. You can get it in 150, so that would be 15 PSI. And then there are thicker ones too. I don't know how far it goes up, but 250 seems to be well enough for the compression rating that I'm gonna need. So yeah, that's kind of the whole system that I'll be going with here. It's a little more complicated than just simply getting an 8 by 4 sheet, laying it down, gluing it down, and then moving on to the next. Since we're not gonna be framing the floor here, we really wanna make sure that it sits nice and flat and flush all the way down. And the best way to do that is gonna be by strategically staggering the seams on the sheets. So I'm not gonna be putting, a 4 sheet on a 4 sheet on a 4 sheet. It's gonna be more like a 4 sheet, and then on top of that, it's like a 3 sheet, with another 4-foot sheet, like kind of overlapping that seam, and then like a 4-foot sheet on top. You'll kind of see what I'm doing. I haven't really planned it out quite yet, but that's the next step. I need to strategically plan out where I'm going to be cutting and laying my sheets and everything. And there's also the matter of, you can't really see, but if I angle you down here, so there's the matter of a few things, like the wheel wells. Obviously I just have 2 wheel wells to worry about, so I have to cut around those. And then I have the fuel intake right there on the side. So there's a box that I can just put back on there, and then I'll have to cut around that box. Not a huge deal. But then that little, right there in the middle, that's a fuel access hatch that you can just take off and you can access the top of the fuel tank. And I want to leave that accessible just in case I ever want to service it, or if I end up doing a diesel heater, which I probably will, I'll want to be able to tap into my diesel tank just to draw fuel straight from the tank and not have to lug around a tank of diesel for the heater through the bus, or have a separate tank. That sounds like a hassle. I'm going to be cutting a threshold out of this little project panel. I'm going to go ahead and get to this. Alrighty, got my threshold in there, so let's go ahead and rip those insulation sheets to size. Got a little test fit going. You can see what I was talking about. It's kind of sitting up against that threshold there. All right, just for a reference, here's the thickness of the insulation. This is both my layers. I mean, that's just a ton of insulation for the floor, especially for a Skoolie conversion or like an RV. This is 2 sheets of R10. So R10 is the insulation rating. The higher the R value, the better the insulation, basically. So like your average RV floors are gonna have typically anywhere from like R10 to R15. And I'm working with 2 R10 layers, so R20. It's gonna be really well insulated. All right, squad. I got a test fit and I like how everything's sitting. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer and explain kind of the layers I got going on and my plan. You can see all the different layers I have going on. So I have first layer of 2-inch insulation, second layer of 2-inch, and then I have my Advantech subfloor on top. My first layer underneath here, so there's a full sheet of foam board insulation, and then on top of that sheet I have an 18-inch piece there, and then a full sheet here. This is the other full sheet. And then this piece right here is a 30-inch piece, and the 18-inch that I got there came from that 30-inch. So it all lined up really well. So yeah, basically the plan now is to take all this up, do a nice little sweep, get everything all nice and clean, and then start gluing down my foam layer. That was not as bad as I anticipated it being. The only rough part was getting the subfloor in by myself. That thing is not light. I'm happy with how it turned out. So I'm gonna flip the camera and take you in for a closer look and then go around to the back and see how that lined up with the threshold I made. So I'm here with, I got a bunch of weight on there. I don't even know how much it is, but I hope it's enough. Just letting this sit overnight until tomorrow evening, and then I can start on this next little section. I'll do probably until about right here. So, all right, so here is the back of it, and here's the threshold. I'm gonna shoot some screws through here down into this birch plywood, but I mean, it lined up really nicely. It's completely flush, and the door still closes too. Alrighty, day 2 of the subfloor install, and this is probably gonna be one of the trickier portions, or it's definitely gonna be one of the trickier portions of the install, because today is the day I have to cut around the fuel intake box there and then the fuel tank access hatch there. So basically what I'm thinking is I'm going to make it just a square box around this circular hatch. It's gonna be a 9" by 9" box, 4 inches high, so that it lines up with where the insulation stops. Okay, so this should give you a better visual. I haven't like put it together yet, and if you can't tell, I'm not a skilled carpenter. I think this will do the job. You can see it lines up perfectly with where the insulation will end up, and it's gonna compress just slightly, so it'll line up really nice and flush. I got my next sheet test fit. It sits nice and flush up against this next sheet. Just have to make sure that I make the measurements correct so that I can cut the hole out of this afterward. Okie dokie, got a test fit with the box in there, and I really like how it's sitting. I can just reach in, access that tank, put that cover back on, put the insulation back in, and I'm all good. Also, went back to the depot, got the big boys, the big 28-ounce tubes. This should be easier just to use 1 tube per sheet. Just got a case of them. It's not too expensive, especially with some bulk pricing. So going with the big tubes. And here is how the second layer fits together. I mean, come on. Can't be too mad about that now. I'm gonna go ahead and get this glued down. I think I got a winning strategy here. I'm gonna be just gluing down and being real careful of where I'm stepping. And then basically I'm going to pull it down and kind of just slide it in. Hopefully that'll distribute the glue a little bit better than yesterday. Yesterday, you just saw it, but I had to like slide it. And the glue is probably primarily on the back side of that sheet. So yeah, we'll see if this works better. But this thing is heavy, so we'll see. That went way better than I kind of anticipated. That was a lot easier to manage that sheet of lowering it down. The only thing that got in the way were the little bits of chair rail that are left. Not too bad at all, but I'm gonna flip the camera and show you kind of a closer look at how this is laying. Right, so coming in from the back side, here's the back, and you get down and oh boy, that is looking real nice. Flat, flat, flat. I am very, very pleased with how this is going so far. This is looking really good. And it's like, I don't know if you can hear, I'll shut up while I'm walking, but like it's super quiet in terms of the squeak from the insulation. So very pleased. Day 3 of doing the subfloor install, and it is hot in here, man. It's starting to feel like summer. Already got my insulation glued down, so that's all set. Now it's time to cut up the sheet of subfloor, and I got my very crude drawing with some measurements on how I'm gonna cut it. All right, I have transcribed my very crude drawing of this sheet onto the sheet itself. So I got my little cutout there for the intake, and then I got my 2 little wing cutoffs to fit between the wheel wells. Hopefully this goes well. Hopefully I don't mess it up. I'm doing this all with a circular saw. I might have to bust out the jigsaw for the shorter cuts, but they're all square cuts, so shouldn't be too terrible. see if that fits. Not horrible. If you can tell by the time lapse, I'm not skilled in the carpentry arts, so that makes it a lot easier to make a straight cut with a circular saw for sure if you don't have a table saw, which I do not, but that Craig jig makes it pretty easy. Well, these angles are gonna make this tricky, but it'll fit. The real tricky part is gonna be shoving that little guy in from that angle. Since it is tongue and groove, it needs to slide together like that, but it can't do that with the box in the way, so it has to kind of like slide in, kind of like at that angle, you know? So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, well, I know it'll fit. I'm liking how it's looking so far, but hopefully I'm just worried about that part snapping. I do not want that little bit to break. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but less broken stuff, the better, right? If you're wondering why I'm only doing one section at a time or one section per day, there are a couple reasons. The first one being I just don't have enough physical weight to do more than one section at a time, because you really got to put as much weight as you can on these sheets to make sure that they are sitting completely flat in every area that they can be. The other reason too is kind of along those same lines. I want to make sure that, you know, if I set this section and then the next section in the same day and it ends up being like wavy because one section wasn't sat correctly because the other section wasn't fully compacted down, I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of the reason why I'm only taking it one day at a time. I'm not really in a huge rush, you know. This is taking 4 days of time, 4 days left to go. It's really not a huge deal. Anyway, long story short, halfway done, have to go. Gonna get started on this next section. That just does not get easier. It's very heavy and awkward to get in because of the little pieces of chair rail, which, by the way, ideally I would have my chair rails, right, like fully intact, just a little bit more structurally sound that way. But I will say it is miles easier to get one of these sheets in without the chair rails on this side than it is or would be with them in there. I would not recommend taking out your chair rails. Unless you've already done so, then it's kind of hard to go back. Anyway, quote 5 sections done, kind of like 5.5. Got a few more to go. I think I can fit 2 more full sheets in the bottom, and then like 2.5 sheets on the top, and then 3 more sheets of subfloor on here. And then this bus has got an insulated floor. It's pretty sweet. This stuff's heavy, dude. I don't want to carry it myself, but I'm gonna have to. It's gotta get done, and it will. It shall go do it. So I don't know if you can see, but I mean, that's a pretty sizable gap, unfortunately, and there is absolutely no way I can get that closer. I pushed with literally everything that I possibly had, and it just would not budge. I could push it away with like no effort, but pushing it in was absolutely impossible. I don't know why. It's got to be something having to do with like how it's laying, I guess. I think this one might be ever so slightly higher than that one. And I think if I were to do this again, what I would do is, instead of putting the groove side to the back, I would put the tongue side to the back, because I feel like rather than trying to fit a groove to a tongue, fitting a tongue to a groove would be a lot easier. And I think that's it, just in my mind, that seems like the right way to do it. So yeah, if I could start this whole process over again, which obviously I cannot, I would definitely put the tongue side to the back of the bus, so that as I went towards the front, I could just slide a tongue into a groove that way. It's a very small detail that I think would make a huge difference. This is all I have left, excuse the mess, but this is it. I haven't measured, but I think I can fit just a tiny bit over 2 more sheets, or no, excuse me, sorry, a tiny bit over 1 more sheet of subfloor. I can fit like a 34-inch piece of insulation there, and then from here to there, I can fit like a 45-inch piece. So it's coming together. Tomorrow will be the finish of this like main section, and then like another day, I'll figure out what I'm gonna do with the cockpit area. But for all intents and purposes, for what I need to do moving forward, it's gonna be finished tomorrow, which is sweet. All right, day 7, last day of the flooring. That's all I have left to do right there. Let's get to it. So it's gonna be a full sheet and then just an 18 and some change section on the end there to cap it all off. Almost done, it's exciting. Okay guys, I totally forgot to press play or record when I was screwing in my stuff, but got a few screws in throughout the threshold. It's nice and sturdy now. It's looking pretty good. Is it perfect? No. Does it have to be? No. All that, like basically from here, is gonna be unseen, and then I'm thinking I'll do like something decorative over this little area here, and we'll ultimately like mesh up with this, so it'll be good. It'll look nice, and I like how it turned out. The gap on this turned out really nicely. I'm starting to think that there was just some crap in the grooves on my other sheets, but yeah, let me get you out for a full shot. It's pretty nice. It's all subfloored, insulated. 4 inches of quality insulation underneath this subfloor, and it's nice and quiet and sturdy. It's really nice. I like it. Got a ton of weight right over here where it ends. And I think what I've decided is I'm gonna do like a kind of like an angled doodad here. Basically lift it, like keep it 4 inches in the subfloor, like keep it totally level right about there on that line, and like in that little cubby area, and then right here in front of the stairs, it's all going to be the same height as all of this. And then in here, I think I'll do maybe like an inch of insulation, or maybe I won't insulate it at all. It's going to be tricky to do with the gas and brake pedal there. I just need to make sure I have enough room there. But the other thing too is I'm not going to be able to get any insulation underneath that dash area, which is a bummer, or subfloor really. I mean, I might be able to get some subfloor if I don't do any insulation, but wasn't really planning on it. I was just going to kind of go around it. But the other thing is I didn't even think about making sure I have enough room for my driver's seat. Like I have all these holes that were, like you can see those holes there, those were originally used to bolt down the driver's seat base. But looking at it right now, it kind of looks like I don't know, it looks pretty tight, but I'm looking at it from a car perspective, not a bus perspective. So I'm sure this is enough room. I'm sure I'll be able to figure something out there. But yeah, no, I'm really liking the result here. Let me get you down on ground level here, and you can see how flat it is. I'm down here with you. Kind of hard to tell, but I mean, can't really complain about that, honestly. I like it. Good stuff, man. Yeah, I think overall this process, I did like this process a lot. Time will tell if this is an actually smart way to do the floor. I don't know, I'm having a hard time imagining it warping, especially with all my weight that I'm eventually gonna have in here on the floor and all the adhesive that I used. Kind of having a hard time imagining it warping, but what I may end up doing is get some kind of like really long kind of fastener that can go through the wood, the insulation, and the metal floor pan, just to give it like a little bit of extra like hold there to keep it from warping down the line. I mean, I wouldn't need to throw like a ton of them in there, maybe a few per sheet, but you know, that's a big maybe. I probably won't end up doing that, but yeah, no, I like the system. It's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's really easy to do. I mean, I did this all 100% solo. It took me 7 days of working on it for like an hour or two a day. And if you know what you're doing, you have a good system, you have a good shop, and you have another person, you could bang this out easily, like no problem. All right, I think that's about enough yapping from me. And honestly, only time will really tell if this floor holds up, but I liked the process a lot. Thought it was really easy, and I think it looks great. So let me know what you think. Make sure to come back for the next one too. I'm gonna be installing a bunch of RV windows, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on. See ya.